What's up, everybody? Welcome to the podcast. Super pumped to have my guest here, Joshua Wiesler. Hopefully I got that right.
Yep.
He lives local to St. Louis. I got connected with him a couple years ago because I made a post and I was looking to franchise my junk removal business, and somebody ended up commenting his name, and I got connected with his dad. You connected me with your dad.
Yep.
And that was like the first conversation I had about franchising my business. And I learned a lot. I learned that it was not the right time to franchise my company. I learned about culture, core values, and I'm sure you have a lot of good stuff to share about that.
Yeah.
So welcome, man. I appreciate it.
Oh, well, thank you for having me, Kyle. I know we've been talking back and forth in different ways for a while, and yeah, just really started connecting here in the past couple months. So
yeah,
it's been great.
Love it, man.
Yeah.
So tell us who you are. You know, go back and where'd you start?
Oh man, always the famous where'd you begin question, the origin story, as we will. So for me, right now, currently, we run a coaching business, but I started way back in the day. I've been in real estate for one way, shape, or form for almost 20 years. I was driving for dollars, looking at vacants, making cold calls, wasn't having any success. And at the time I did that, I got connected with a mentor, which is what, they say to do. And turns out one of the great lessons I learned from connecting with that mentor is the difference between a mentor and a con man. So I got connected with this guy who I thought was a mentor.
Local?
Local, yes. I believe he's still around doing stuff, but I haven't really stayed in contact with him. But yeah, so went in, I was looking for that magic pill, and I was looking for that thing that was going to solve all of my issues with business and just like my feelings of inadequacy, of not being good enough, all this stuff. And that brought him into my world, and ended up going through him for 3 years, made no money, ended up costing, my dad, as well as a couple other people, like multiple six figures. And at the end of it, ended up getting divorced, just had my daughter, who was right at a year old, through that. And my lawyer at the time in the divorce said, hey, man, you're going to need to go and get a job and prove some income, so for child support and all these other things. So at that time, it's one of those, like, you feel like you're in the valley, feels like the worst thing in the world. I went through and I worked at a title company for like 3 years, got my producer's license, but I always had that feeling of like I wanted to be doing real estate. So I was working there, and through the bumps and bruises, all of this stuff, through my relationships falling apart and just really taking some inventory of myself, I ended up selling airplane parts over in Illinois for small engine aircraft. So for me, one of the things that's always happened in my life is after about 2 or 3 years of getting proficient at something, I would always say, I'm kind of bored, and like blow my life up. Not in that way. That's not how I looked at it, but that's ultimately what I was doing until this last time. About 6 years ago, I was selling those airplane parts, and it just really hit me like I wanted to get back into real estate. I wanted to get back into doing something for myself instead of working for other people. And it wasn't working to do that. So I talked to my bosses at the airplane company. I said, hey, I'm going to draw this line in the sand. And I said, I don't know what's going to happen, but in 4 months, I'm leaving. I'm going to give my 4 months notice. I wanted also, part of my growth in that arena was I wanted to leave them better off than I found them, because up until that point, it was a lot of me, and a lot of, what's in it for me in my life, and taking. And so for those 4 months, I just focused on improving how the sales were for the company. I focused on like helping management, like whatever I needed to do. And the other thing that I started was like the practice of gratitude, which was new in my life as well. So for those 3 months, nothing really happened. And then I got my wife at the time with me, we were looking to buy a new house. And even with knowing I was going to quit my job, and that the end of that, not knowing what it looked like, we bought a house, the one we currently live in down in South County. And through that process, I got connected with a guy that I had met a decade before, who I had talked about real estate, and he gave me some advice. He was not a mentor at the time, but he was definitely someone that I would reach out to, and he would give me some advice here and there. And he said, hey man, I know you're talking to my mortgage guy who was a referral. That's how I connected with him to buy our house. And he goes, I know you're looking at a couple different mortgage companies, but you're going to use our guy, and you're going to get taken care of because you know who I am and you know this. And that confidence, I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. And I also said, something in my gut said, hey, take a chance and say, how do we work together? And so I did that, and I sent him an email back, and I said, I don't know what it looks like, but something in my gut is telling me we're going to work together, and whatever that looks like. And so he said, hey, talk to my acquisition person, and you're going to have to convince her. And if you can convince her, then yeah, we'll work together. And so with that, I started talking to her. It took me like 3 weeks of follow-up. She kind of blew me off in the beginning. We're great friends now, but it was one of those. It's like, no, I want this, and I'm going to be persistent, and I'm going to keep going after it. And so eventually she came on board, and then Jason said, hey, I'm willing to bring you on, but you're going to have to put some skin in the game. And we'll split deals, whatever that agreement is. And in order to do that, you're going to have to put some money up too. So not only was I quitting my job, we were buying a house. I had to put $1,000 of my own money in as kind of a holder to just get in the door. And
commitment.
Commitment. And he said, after 3 deals, I'll give you that money back and whatever splits. And I was like, okay, fantastic. And I also knew that their primary, what they do is not just, they do a lot of wholesaling, which I don't know if your community knows what that is, but yeah, basically.
Yeah, they will.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay.
Some will, some won't.
Some will, some won't. So, yeah, basically just buying a contract and selling it to an end buyer. And with that, I went through in the first 4 months, I didn't, because it was a new skill set, it was all this, I didn't have any success. I got to the point where, you have one of those come to Jesus talks. I'm sitting in my car out in my front yard, like getting ready to go in the house and feeling like a complete failure. And just straight said like, look, God, I'm making my calls. I'm doing what I need to do. I'm out there doing what I think is right. And I need some support. And at that time, literally, we were working on a couple different deals, and 2 days later, I had someone call me that I had been following up with. We had talked. I thought I blew that deal up like a month and a half ago, but she called me and she was like, hey, I want to talk about selling my house down in Tower Grove. Out of the blue, completely kind of shifted for me of like, ooh, okay, so maybe this does work. I see
light.
Yeah, I see light. I have some hope. Maybe I just needed to ask for what I wanted from the universe and just being open and not having any expectations. And that ended up being one of the bigger wholesales I've ever done down in Tower Grove. It was one of my second one. And it was, we ended up netting about 45 grand on it. It was a great project, or a great process. We sold it to a great end buyer. The property got remade beautifully. And it was one of those things that,
and that was validated. A wholesale or flip?
It was a wholesale that we gave to we wholesaled it to the end buyer.
Okay.
So we made 45 grand and the end buyer made probably about 100.
Okay. And would I know that the partner that you're talking about, you said Jason.
Yeah.
Palliser?
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
So Melissa is who I'm speaking with. Yeah.
Okay. Very cool. So you initially hired a mentor way before that. How many years, I guess, was that, where you first started, you hired that mentor to working with Jason? So
that was about 6 years, I would say. So in that process, actually probably more than that. Just going back through my history, a lot of people don't realize I just turned 41, so I've been in this game a little while.
You don't look 41.
I hear that more and more often, and also the more I love my life, the younger I look and the younger I feel. So,
secret of the pros.
Oh, it's so ridiculous. Even professional photographers tell me, they're like, dude, you look better now than you did 10 years ago in your picture. I'm also probably 70 pounds lighter, which helps a lot. So with that, so between this mentor in quotes, and he assaulted me as I was leaving the group, which, it's one of those
fought you?
Like grabbed me from behind as I was leaving his house, and like I had to turn around and like shove him to get him off of me. Like it was a bad, toxic situation, and it was because I believed I deserved it at the time. Is how that normally goes and you attract. However, so with that, I ended up working for the title company for 3 years. After the title company, I ended up working for a cell phone company, selling cell phones for another 3 years. And then I worked at that airplane part. So almost a decade, probably.
And you still didn't do any deals in that time frame?
No. Okay. No. Nope. I was in real estate. I was surrounding real estate. I was orbiting real estate. But that was one of those barriers I had to break through, was actually doing deals consistently over time, right? And that's where Jason and Alyssa came in and helped me out.
So you said that you hired that person, or you guys kind of partnered up or whatever. You lost multiple 6 figures. Yeah. Are you saying that like the potential deals that you could have had, you lost that money, or was that like out of pocket cash?
Out of pocket cash to just for those out there in the world, to know the difference between a con man and like a mentor, con men will feed on hope and greed. And what they do is they overwhelm you with information to the point where it's always a hope of the next thing. Hey, give me another whatever and we'll make it right. Give me another whatever, we'll make it right. As opposed to, hey, I'm helping you actually execute what you're looking to do. So we had this grandiose plan and he kept bringing more people in and more things. So it was just a matter of the money that was lost was we were helping him build his plan. And
Ponzi scheme is what it sounds like.
Yes. And so, and again, had I been in a different position, had I had the experience that I've had, probably wouldn't have happened. But I needed it to happen in order for me to get where I'm at today. And you only get that through looking through your experiences and understanding like the growth you've had through them, if that's how you choose to look at them. So,
do you have any regrets during that time?
Any regrets? No, because if I had regrets, then I would want to do things differently. And getting to the point in my life, I'm working heavily on appreciation, working heavily on self-love, working heavily on ease, as well as acceptance is one of the things as well. And if I'm not in the mode of acceptance, then that means I'm trying to change what happened and I'm fighting with reality, as they say. And that's where you really start to suffer. Because if you're fighting with reality, then you're not actually being present. You're not where your feet are, right? So for me, do I have regrets? Are there things I wish that probably would have went different? Yes, but are they regrets for me in this point of where like I'm beating myself up because I made the wrong choices? No, at that point, I've come to terms with that.
It makes you who you are today.
Correct. Yeah,
that's how you learn.
Yeah, it's how you learn, and it's also like if I hoped it would be different, then I'm also not looking at the lessons that I'm taking from that experience. I'm hoping it would change instead of gaining wisdom. And you know the difference between knowledge and wisdom. Knowledge is knowing that tomatoes are a fruit, and wisdom is knowing that they don't belong in a fruit salad. You only get it by honoring what you've gone through, right? So that's kind of how I look at things, to not beat myself up any much like now. And it's really started helping. It's really started helping with our coaching, and then also with just like the people in my everyday life. Being able to be that presence of, the world is going to happen. Life is going to happen. It's not a matter of like fighting and hoping it didn't happen that way. It's a matter of acknowledging how it happened and then getting back on track, knowing this will actually help you and how to figure out how to help you in the long term versus hoping it didn't happen and then getting stuck, hoping it was a different way. Right?
I love that.
Yeah. And go ahead.
So once you started working with Jason, it sounds like there was a period of time before you got your first deal, which that was probably the process of building your pipeline, as they say.
And I call it breaking the seal. Anytime you're doing something new, for me, with the experiences I've had and the people I've talked to, normally the hardest thing for people is breaking the seal into something new. Because you have to establish that you have the abilities, you have the mindset, you have the skills, you have the networks, resources, all of that. And if you don't have proof, you have to be the type of person that knows, hey, and this is a shift for me with my partner Grant in the coaching company that I've been working on the past like 6-7 months, is the difference between I have to have everything figured out so I can commit that it's a yes versus I know I want this in my life and it's a yes and I don't know how to do it yet and that's okay and we'll figure it out. That's a different energy because that's saying, hey, I'm going to create my destiny and I'm going to figure out how to make that work versus I have to have all the pieces lined up so that I feel safe making sure that's in my life.
I literally just said yesterday to I think one of my clients, and I was like I was trying to use the example of building a pipeline, right? Mm-hmm. Because I tell my clients, hey, you need to utilize social media, you need to go hard, right? Mm-hmm. But people will post social media for 1 week and they don't get any deals or something happens, they don't make any money and they're like, this doesn't work, right? Yeah. And I use the example of real estate. You have to build a pipeline where you don't just make your first offer or your first 3 offers and you make $5,000 or you get your first deal.
Right.
It's kind of like social media. You're just building a pipeline. You need to make offers. You need to post content. But if you continue to do those things, everything's going to start falling in place. And that's like people don't see that. That's why they don't see the success.
No, we as a society love the output. We love the goal. We love the result, right? It's a very different mindset to love effectively making the process better or effectively learning where your gaps are in the process and working on that versus, hey, a great example. So this week with our clients, we do quarterly goal setting, right? And so we bring them in and we sit down and they've brain dumped, they've prioritized, they've grouped all their stuff together. And what we do is say, hey, you've got this goal and this is how you initially wrote it. And then we look at it and say, okay, this goal, like one of them, an example is like, hey, I want to hire this person for like by the end of the year for spring. And I say, okay, that's great. That's your outcome and that's your goal. That's what you want. However, if we pull it back and we say, hey, this goal isn't self-contained. How can we make it to where it's just solely on us or our business, our people, in our company to actually effectively do this, as opposed to I'm gonna create a goal that's outside of my control? Because when we create it outside of our control, life happens. People say no to offers, whatever that ends up being. We can't effectively say, hey, I put this into my life, I put this as a goal, and I accomplished it if it doesn't solely rely on us. So then it's a matter of that's the outcome. How do we pull it back to make it about the process? How do we pull it back to make it about refining what you're doing in a way that is so just efficient? It doesn't matter what the outcome is because it's almost already done, right? It's set and it's going to happen. We know it's going to happen. And then that output is actually a reflection of the performance. And we see where that gap in that performance is and effectively hammer on the process again. So it's a matter of taking it from like, hey, I love getting all these things to I love working on my business. I love working on making it more efficient. Alex Hermosi, everybody knows him nowadays. He says something that really stuck with me and kind of shifted my perspective on this is, we're not playing a finite game. And everybody thinks it's a finite game when we're going for that goal. Like, hey, man, if I just get $100,000 in the bank account, I'll be solid. If I get $1 billion business, it'll be solid. If I hire this one person, it's going to fix everything. That's playing finite games. But really in business, and what he says, and I really took it to heart, is we are playing an infinite game. Our goal, maybe I'll change that. Like for you, you sold your junk removal business, right? However, that wasn't your ultimate end goal. That was a step. You're still playing the infinite game. You just shifted how it looks, right? As opposed to people that say, hey, my whole goal is just to sell the business, then that's what you're aiming for. Then if you don't have that happening, then you feel like you're a failure. You feel like they attach to those outcomes, right? As opposed to engaging in the actual process. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I like the way that you frame that too. Yeah. A lot of people, I feel like, I get down on myself occasionally because I listen to other people out there, because initially my goal was to have this $100 million junk removal company and I'm going to franchise it.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have all these locations, right? When people are like, oh, why'd you sell your junk removal business? It wasn't successful because people don't sell successful businesses. And I'm like, well, that's not true. But I feel like I'm so young. And I feel like it's okay to switch paths because you don't know what you don't know. And once you experience new things, your mindset's going to change to where you might have a goal today that changes tomorrow. And that's kind of like I'm trying to find clarity in that spot where it was, okay, I was going to go do this thing. I want to do this thing now. I'm just trying to find that clarity of where I want to go.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. And that touches on, so one of our core principles, and Grant brought this as I joined him, he really brought it to the forefront, and I've added on to it. So he has what's called the CPA model. Most people think certified public accountant. No, it is concept, plan, and action. And those are the three parts of accomplishing anything. Conceptualizing things is really where a lot of CEOs and a lot of business owners, where they should be spending a majority of their time along with architecting things. And then the actions become aligned when you've got the concept and your plan really synced up. However, when you ask a lot of business owners, especially in real estate or, in service-based industries of like, hey, great example, concept is lead generation. How are you going to lead generate, or how are you going to create more leads? And a lot of them go, oh, well, I'll go and put out 100 bandit signs, or I'll go out and I'll do this. And they go right into the tactical action and the execution. However, pull back, create more of a strategy around it. Part of creating that strategy will give you an understanding of where your gaps are. Where are you actually committed to doing all this work that it's going to require? Do you even know all the work it's going to require in this? But no, what happens is we have the concept, we go straight into action, and then we hit that proverbial brick wall and we don't know how to fix it, and we get deflated because we don't have the results. And then the additional step for me that I've found over the last couple years in working this is the concept, the plan, and the action is great. And where we most of the time get stuck is we don't take the results, that wisdom that we got from taking those actions and that performance, and reevaluate the concept. what we do is we'll bash our heads against the wall until we get burnt out, or we say, hey, this doesn't work, and we quit a lot of times. But those of us that are determined not to quit and make it work, they will eventually hit that cycle and start reevaluating. The other thing you had mentioned is like being in the valley, being in the like the aloneness or not knowing what the next step is and doing that. And everybody goes through it. And for me, what I'm finding with all of my clients is all of us go through it and all of us think we're the only ones going through it most of the time. Nobody knows our struggle. Nobody knows what we're going through. And really, in true honesty, if we look at it, nobody knows what we're going through. It also ties in for me a lot of times with coaching products, the same regard. And I'll connect these here in a second. So everybody doesn't know what you're going through specifically, but they know the feelings and emotions: loneliness, guilt, shame, fear. Those are the base human emotions. They're normal. They're human. However, how they present for you may be in your business. It may be with your personal life. It may be with your kids, not you. Well, yeah, you have a kid now. Yeah, you got a kid now. Yeah. And so like I've got three teenagers right now that like my not struggles, but my experiences are different, right? So even though I may have a different symptom of the disease, as we call it, the cause of the disease is the same. But we all want to focus on solving this circumstance when really it's the underlying stuff that you got to get to in order to heal it or fix it or whatever that is. Even if it's in a business, you're like, hey, my sales are down. Well, how do we fix sales? Well, it's not really the sales that are down. It's actually your salesman that's got an issue with his wife and it's affecting his like. So that's where you got to pull back. And
I really like how you break things down. Like you're like, you either have a goal or a problem or whatever it is. And it's like most people just think about that one thing and nothing really else, where you break it all the way down to where you really figure out the problem.
The root.
Right?
Yeah.
The root.
Yeah. Like if you're gonna have just the best example I can think of, if you've got a tooth that's sore and you want to do like, you're like, oh, I'll just put some ointment on it. That doesn't solve it if you've got to have a root canal. Same thing with anything else. And how that ties in for me with the coaching world is I was with Jason and they have an amazing product and they help people for sure. And for me, what I was experiencing sometimes is we would have these people that come in, and this is how it ties to like everybody's problems. They may be different, but they all have the same root. Where you've got all these people that are high performers especially in the investing world, high performers in the industry. The guys out of Faster House are amazing. The guys, there's Tiffany High and I can't remember, Josh High out in Ohio that are like high impact and they're helping everybody. And, they're charging all these things for the weekend. And people go in thinking it's going to be a magic pill to solve all their problems with their business. And those are the people that are going to have the most trouble. The people that I found in doing, like looking back in research when I was doing the coaching with Jason and them, the people that had the most success weren't the people that came in thinking it would completely change their business. They came in going, no, I just have to find one thing that is going to complement my business and we can make six figures on it. Those are the people that executed and those are the people that did it. How it came to me and my understanding is, and you as a coach for, Junk Academy, you have a very specific product and you have a way. You've gotten the experience to start from nothing to make it happen out of this. So the people that you're helping, they have the ability to if they started from nothing. A lot of times in the investing world, what happens is, hey, we've got this business model and it's super effective and we've made millions of dollars on it. All you have to do is follow this business model and it'll work. And you've gotten very good at connecting with your ideal client in regards to that. A lot of people don't. In the investing world, they just think it's going to solve it and they come in, but they don't understand their skill sets are different. The people that went through this process to build it completely, they got the experience of building it completely on the back end. And going through all that, the other piece that a lot of people don't acknowledge is adversity is required sometimes because that's where you build your skill sets. The only people are like, hey, if everything's great and amazing, what skill set are you building in that? You can build gratitude, you can build appreciation, you can build a couple other ones, but are you building a skill set that's going to get you through that valley or that cave that you sometimes go back into? Is that a skill? Like, what skill set are you building if you're not going through that adversity? Right. And for me, a lot of people don't understand adversity is something actually that you've asked for to build those skill sets you're wanting for this result, but they don't make that connection. So when they hit that adversity, because the result's not there, they end up looking at it as I'm a failure as opposed to, oh no, this is part of the process.
So when you were with Jason, it sounds like you were doing a little more than the real estate side of things. Were you on the blueprint side as well?
Yes. Eventually, I got brought in. I was really good with negotiations and people. That's one of the things in my history I've gotten really good with is managing personalities and understanding human behavior. And it was all because I found that was where I needed to focus my personal growth because I didn't like who I was, right? And so I got more into the world of spirituality, more into the world of psychology, really got into the world of like just how do we behave as humans and what causes us to react, what causes us to respond. And human behavior for me is like it's a playground. Like knowing how people are motivated, it's helped with my empathy. It's helped with understanding like how to influence people in a way to where it's not, I used to think it as a manipulation, and there used to be a piece of that. It's all based on your intention, right? So if you're looking to have a joint win-win situation, it's influence, helping them get to where they want to go, and what really is causing them not to move is that human behavior piece. I'm either afraid that the outcome is not going to be what I want. I don't know how to navigate that, so I've got fear. And it's just helping them understand, like, no, you can do this, and helping them understand their own power in that process.
Did you read the book 48 Laws of Power?
I have not. I've heard it numerous times, and I think you mentioned it before. So yeah,
I haven't read it. I bought it. Yeah, but I hear about it. I bought it. I just haven't read it.
Right. Yeah. So no, I've heard great things about it, and it's on my list eventually.
I've heard good and bad things about it.
Bad? How so?
Just, it's you learn how to manipulate, certain situations or people, in your favor, that sort of thing. So,
gotcha.
But
walk people through the process is all we're doing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
So what made you want to get into the coaching business?
Yeah. So at that time, with Jason and Alyssa, we got about 3 years in. There was a point where I really enjoyed the coaching and I really enjoyed getting deals to the closing table. And we were just kind of in a transition for me. I wanted to focus. The company was a lot of wholesaling. Actually, it was all wholesaling at that point. And I wanted to do a little bit more rental property, like learn project management, a little bit more of that. And it just wasn't where they were heading at the time. So we decided to amicably part ways. And I connected with another company that I worked project management for them. They brought me in. They had known I worked with the blueprint. They brought me in to be project manager. Oh, and also, by the way, when I got in, their acquisition people were struggling a little bit and they weren't working. So they were like, hey, we know you've got that background. Also, like, can you do this? So we ended up, after 2 weeks, realizing the acquisition guy they had wasn't the guy. They ended up letting him go and brought in 2 new acquisition people that I trained. They were like, hey, you've got the acquisition background.
Did you let them know, like, hey, this isn't your guy here? You're going to need to get rid of him?
They asked me real quick, like, what's your impression on him? And for me, it wasn't a matter of he wasn't the guy. It was a matter of, like, he wasn't showing up the way he needed to for them to be the guy. Mm-hmm. So they kind of already knew. They just wanted to make sure there was, like, nothing that I could have done to help. And I was like, he wasn't showing up on time. He wasn't showing up like every third day. Like, so there was those additional items. So we brought the acquisition people in. I trained them. We started doing some deals. I did project management for them. I think we did 8 or 9 projects in the span of like 7 or 8 months. And the last one was really great out in O'Fallon. Helped a nurse. His wife died. Helped him move to Florida. And it was just like, it was a great project, and it was right on the beginning of COVID. So, they ended up thinking it was going to sell for like $275, ended up going for $350. You know how the market went at that time. And then they decided to go virtual. They had something happen with their acquisition people. The acquisition people got let go. And so they're like, hey, we're also going to go virtual, which does not mean we're in St. Louis anymore. So we're not really going to be doing projects. So we want you to come back into the office. And it was like, they were having me cold call on houses in Jennings where the splits were like, it's like, even if we got this, it would be $5,000. It's not really something that's going to work all that effectively. And we've already killed these deals. So go ahead. Yeah.
So I have this question because we've done a lot of jobs for Junkermivel and Jennings and those areas. Mm-hmm. The people who are watching this probably don't know what Jennings is. I've gone out there.
Yeah.
I remember I had a office manager, and she gave me a call one day. I wasn't at the office, and she said, hey, there's a cop here who wants to talk to you. I was like, oh boy, what did I do wrong?
Yeah.
Right. And I show up, and he said that he had a house in, I believe it was Jennings, some unincorporated area out there.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, we need you to remove this back deck. And I thought potentially, that was a house that I could purchase. He said it was falling apart, whatever. And I went out there, and it was an area that I did not want to be in.
Right.
The junk removal project itself was a lot more money than I'd be willing to offer for the house. I mean, he opened up the door. I saw a million cockroaches just flying out the door.
Yeah. Fun.
Why should somebody want to purchase a property in an area like that? And also, like, is there even a good spread to even wholesale or flip those type of properties? Because for me, I think I offered $5,000 for the property.
That sounds about right.
Is what I offered.
Yeah.
And the ARV was like 35,000 or something super, super low.
Sounds about right. Yeah.
And there was just no money to be made on the property whatsoever.
Yeah. So Jennings is a lower income neighborhood. There is money to be made if you're wholesaling. The spreads are going to be a lot lower because of the price point there. You're going to have to do more volume. You can make money there without a doubt. I've sold a couple properties in Jennings. However, yeah, it's a lot more difficult to do like bigger spreads. You're most likely not going to find a $20,000 wholesale in there. You're going to buy it for the cash flow on the back end, and you're going to just do it to like lower income rent standards. Normally is how I've seen it done.
A cash cow.
Yeah, it's an ATM basically. Is you're going to put, buy it. The model, I know people that have bought in there exclusively. The model is buy and repair. You don't spend over $30,000. If you spend over $30,000, you're going to lose. You're probably not going to lose money, but you're definitely overpaying, and you want to have a 2 times return on it. So that means if you're paying 30, your rent needs to at least be 600, which in that area it is. So yeah, it's all about controlling the cost of the acquisition and the rehab of the property. In order
there's
to make
probably
it work.
No appreciation as well. So it's all based on cash flow.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, that is an area in real estate you normally focus. There's a couple different variables. It's appreciation or equity-based buying, which is flipping and the higher end stuff. There's rental-based buying, which is the lower income because you're going to have a cash cow like an ATM in Jennings, or you've got a little mix of both in the places like North County where your repair values are like 150, stuff like that. So
okay,
yeah.
So the more I've been an entrepreneur, the more I've dealt with taxes, right? Mm-hmm. And I've just been getting absolutely hammered where I'm like, okay, I need to buy some more real estate to make sure I get these tax advantages.
Yeah.
I work with Jack. Jack's one of my clients. Mm-hmm. You work with Jack as well.
I do. Great guy.
We've been getting really close, and he told me he bought 30-something rentals in the first year of real estate, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I need to make sure I at least buy one more in my first year of buying rentals. So that's my goal next year. I want to buy rental properties, and I got to buy one more than him. What would be your advice for myself? Like, what kind of areas should I target?
That's a great goal.
What makes what do you think it's going to take for me to be able to accomplish that goal?
Oh, there's a couple different things. You've got some resources that some people don't. So, in order to accomplish that goal, I have no doubt you're going to. My question for you is always, what is your intention behind that goal, and what do you want it to look like? Because you can buy. I'm one of our guys, Brian. He had 50 doors when we started a couple months ago. He just bought a package of 7, so he's at like 61 doors now. But he buys everything in St. John's. That's where he lives. That's what he wants to create a little empire. So everything is in that like 5-mile radius of where he lives. St. John's, St. Anne's, that arena, and it's lower to middle income, so it's not going to have like, hey, it's capped at, most of the houses in Jennings are capped at $50,000 ARV. Like even getting a loan on those are difficult. But that's what he wants his portfolio to look like. My partner Grant, he's had lower income houses, or not lower income, but he's had houses around that area in Jennings, as well as he's had some mids ones. And now he would rather have a rental portfolio that has appreciation, not necessarily so much cash flow, because he wants a nicer house. He wants a nicer quality, not nicer quality tenant, but a higher income tenant. His phrase that I love is low maintenance, high integrity, right? So those are the tenants he's looking for. And he finds if he focuses on higher end properties, that's normally where people spend the time. So that's his view. For you, man, you want to do one more than Jack, and you're buying rental. Again, just a joke, but
yeah.
But for you, are you more interested in the cash flow? Are you more interested in the number of properties? Are you more, because everybody's got that value system.
Yeah. Everything that you just said, for the most part, I am that guy where it's like, the cash flow's got to be X. I need this amount of rentals for like, I don't, maybe it's a pride thing. Taxes are going to be the number one, right?
Okay.
Because I don't want to, I want to owe zero, right? Or maybe even get some money back. That'd be nice.
Yeah.
So that would be one thing. The second thing would be, if I had any regrets in the past 4 years, it'd be managing my money better to where I wish I lived like I was just completely poor. Maybe don't live in the house that I am. I wish I was driving a beater, right? And I wish I would have put every single dollar that I had into buying real estate, because right now I've made really, really big months, right? I've made a lot of money in a given year. But if you make 100,000 this month or 500,000 this month, right? You have to go make it again. You start from zero next month.
Right.
To where for me, it's like, I don't want to have to do that my whole entire life.
Yeah.
Because you're always going to start at zero unless you have recurring revenue coming in.
Yep.
So I'm looking to not maybe start at zero. I'm looking to have enough cash flow coming in to where I want it to pay for my whole entire lifestyle, everything, where I can live comfortably, I would say, without even having to put the work in. So I would say that's mainly the two reasons why.
Okay. So hearing that, you've got some appreciation, depreciation stuff, as well as some cash flowing stuff. So with that, man, yeah, you'd be looking at the mid-range places of anywhere from, $100,000 up to $300,000, depending on what you're looking at. I would say those lower incomes, so you're in a good spot where you would be able to buy probably packages. You've got enough leverage and enough relationships to where you can do that. And what not a lot of people can take advantage of this. We call it the buy the gallon, sell the shot method. You can go and you can find these packages that are spread out, and especially now with what's going to probably be coming up in our industry, or the investing industry, of foreclosures are going to start happening more often again. There's going to be different variables with how the market is, where you can buy a package of, say, 20 properties, but you don't want all of them. So you buy them and then you sell off 7, you sell off 7 or 8, you keep the 12 that you want, and they're cash flowing. And those 7 that you sold off have helped pay for that. So
you do a wholesale.
Right. Yeah. You wholesale, you find a partner that wants them, whatever it is, but you've got the ability to buy the gallon, sell the shot. That's one thing I would recommend. And
okay. So now I got another question. See, I'm getting a free coaching program right here. See what I did?
Yeah, and investing is like, I'm really good at it, and it's not really even my specialty anymore. But yeah, like what else you got?
So okay, so say I have a certain nut, right, and that's the money that I'm willing to put down for these properties.
Okay.
And I'm kind of the guy where I'd rather not but go one by one and buy a house. I'd rather buy an apartment complex or a bundle, right?
Yeah.
Knowing that somebody, a bank or a lender, I don't have much collateral to give them because I don't have, I have a house, I have cars and stuff like that, but I don't have any other like rental properties that have equity in them that I could borrow against, right? What would be your advice in terms of maybe somebody like in my situation, or somebody who's wanting to get into real estate, who's wants to buy these package deals?
Yep.
And be able to get the funds to actually purchase them?
Okay. Great question. And for me, one of the things I've learned in my history and my growth has been ask questions of the people that are going to be making the decisions, right? So for me, I would give you the answer. First off, the multifamilies and like the bigger packages and stuff, definitely recommend it if you've got the ability to. We bought our 11 unit, me and my partner, Laura. We bought it subject to the existing financing with help from the seller, and as well with these bigger packages. And when you've got like multifamilies or you've got things in the commercial world, the sellers are more business savvy and they're more willing to get the business done versus being emotionally attached to it like somebody that was living in a house for 15, 20 years, right? So you got a little different dynamic there. So for you, I would definitely recommend, like, they have these products called DSCR loans. Again, this is getting into the weeds of real estate, but the bankers, they lend based off of the performance of the asset and how it looks as a business versus how it looks as a house. So if you buy a multifamily and you've got and this is how we did ours, we bought this multifamily from the seller using creative financing, and then the goal was to refinance it within 2 years. And we ended up being able to refinance it in 7 months because we changed out the tenants. Super huge roach problem at the time. Had some tenants that were struggling, but they were hot spots is what they called. So we got this all fixed up. We got it done. And refinancing this deal, they didn't really look at our financials ourselves. They looked at how the building was performing, what we've got it to do, and how to leverage it. And we went in there and said, hey, Doug, we're looking to refinance this down the road. When we first started and bought it, we're not financing it with you today, but we know we're going to be doing it down the road. What do we need to have in place in order to make that happen? We included it as part of our overall plan for the process and the business and the property versus like, hey, we're just going to figure it out at the end, right? So one of the big things is start talking to the people that have the money that you're going to be looking to finance things with. And they'll tell you, you are probably in a better position than you think. And that's normally how it works. We have a fear of like, hey, I either don't know this or, hey, I'm not in that position yet. So not even a point of talking yet. I say go talk. Go have that conversation and know where you're at. The thing one of the things I say to people when they're talking about goals and like really achieving things is you have to know where you're at in order to know where you're going. Because the example I always use is, hey, if I'm heading to New York and I'm telling myself I'm in Arizona, but you know as well as I do, we're in St. Louis, I'm never going to get to New York. If I use that map and I'm in St. Louis, but I use that map and pretend I'm in Arizona, I'm going to end up in the ocean or I'm going to end up in Canada. Like, it's not going to get me to where I need to go because I don't really know what that road is going to need to look like.
Are you actively wholesaling right now?
I am with my partner, Laura.
Okay.
Yeah, we've got stuff.
So you got some deals for me?
We will. Yes, we are working on that. So
where are these deals like generally at where you're doing lead gen and that sort of thing?
It's in the St. Louis metro area.
Okay.
Yeah. So so for us, we buy multifamilies, duplexes or above. We've got stuff that comes across our plate in single families, but yeah, we will buy pretty much anywhere outside of there's like a 19 block radius in North City where like most of the crime happens. Outside of that, we'll buy anywhere. So
are you talking about like MLK? I can't think of what that road is.
Yeah.
Is it Kings?
Yeah, I think it's around the Fairgrounds Park.
Yeah, my buddy, I don't know if you know Connor Proffer. He's a real estate broker in St. Louis. Sells multifamily. Good connection for you.
I was going to say, I'll need a meeting.
He invited me to this cigar bar out there. I can't think of what it's called. I want to say Nathan's, but I don't think it's Nathan's. Okay. But it's in a real popular spot. And I was in the Lambo, and I left there at 12:30 at night, and I should have just hopped on 40 or 64. Yeah. And I went straight down, I went towards 70, and I was driving through that area, and I just did not feel comfortable whatsoever. Which I guess leads me into the next thing here, which, I've lived in O'Fallon my whole entire life. If I would want to buy rentals, at all, I'd rather go this way than this way. I just have like so many stories with junk removal and situations to where it just makes me not really feel as comfortable. I don't really like going out. I mean, there's so many good areas but to find those really good deals, right? It might be in a terrible spot. Do you think that, I should stay more in the St. Charles area and try to do those deals? Or go in St. Louis, because there is obviously a price difference, and kind of going back to what Grant said about, you're probably going to pay a little bit more. There's going to be more appreciation, but in return, I'm not going to have to deal with these tenants as much.
This is what I love about the coaching world. And people always ask, it's like, hey, just tell me what to do. Just tell me what the answer is. And I can tell you 12 different answers. For this one, you're going to have an experience. The further you get out west, which way, west? Yeah, west, towards like Troy, Missouri and all that stuff, you're going to deal with more of the rural, that word.
Those type of tenants.
That type of tenant versus the city tenants. And there's nothing wrong with either one. They have, again, like we talked about, they're all going to have the same underlying issues. It's a matter of what do you want to deal with, right? So it's either they don't take care of the property, and that may look different in the city than it looks out in the country. Then there's also like
Hoosiers, and then bullet holes in the
however you need to label it. However, what I will say is one of the things that has really helped me in my experience, and for me, my life, I've been bringing people and partners into my life that help me grow in a way. So for me, Laura, my partner in our building, she deals with the tenant relations. I deal with maintenance, and I deal with project management, turning units, stuff like that. And she is really big on, hey, right out of the gate, they are human. They are human beings, and we are going to, as we increase the property value and we increase the rent, they will also increase how they show up, or be more careful of the property, be more appreciative of us. And that's what we've seen. And the thing is, how you treat your tenants is how your tenants will treat your building, right? So you do want to be in a situation, and you do want to be in an area where you just not even like the property, but you do like the kind of people that are in that area, right?
Yep. What's one of the craziest stories you can tell us about rentals or flips or anything real estate related?
Yeah. So in the span of a week with our multifamily, and I've got tons of stories. Like I've seen my partner Alyssa, they had one where they went to Jennings and like had someone defecate in their living room in front of them. I
heard about that story.
Yeah, like there's I know people that have had stories about suicides. I had one specifically for me this week will always be burned into my memory. So we had a heroin addict that when we bought the building, they moved out, but we were still in contact. They owed us some money. We had to completely clear out that. We actually got a bid from you guys to clear that out. It didn't work out on that one because we had other stuff going on as well that we just incorporated. But he moved out, and because he was a heroin addict, they weren't able to treat him. He had to have intravenous, and all of his veins were blown. So he was in the hospital, and he was progressively having heart failure over the span of like 3 weeks after he moved out. In that same week, so we got news that he was really going downhill on Monday. We did a bug spray on Tuesday because there were 3 hot spots in our building. That guy was one. We had a schizophrenic a schizophrenic guy, younger guy. He was another one, and there was really nothing in his unit but bugs and like a mattress. And so in the span of a week, we got the news that this guy, that he was going downhill. We did a bug spray, and the sprayer said, hey, this guy who is the schizophrenic, like, can he leave the building for like 8 hours or 4 to 8 hours? We need to do a bomb in here. It's that bad. And I said, okay. We talked to him. He said, yeah, I'll head out. So we sprayed that Tuesday, found out Monday about the guy going downhill. Tuesday we sprayed and bug bombed. And in this, and it almost gave me like PTSD is what I feel like. I can still feel him crawling like on me. He did the bomb, he did the flushing agent, and literally when cockroaches, just so anybody that doesn't know, cockroaches, when they're going through that process, they climb up. And so they climbed up to the ceiling through the walls, like literally started raining cockroaches into this unit while we were like closing the door. I like saw it
like falling on,
like crawling up the wall, getting to the ceiling, and then they were dying. It was literally raining cockroaches in his unit. Craziest thing I've ever seen. So that was Tuesday. Thursday, we find out that the guy, the heroin addict, he passed. He died. Friday night, we found out Saturday. Friday night, the schizophrenic's dad, he came into town because he heard of the situation we were having with him, trying to get, everything caught up with his rent and all this other stuff with the condition. The dad showed up, connected with the son, and the son kind of disappeared on Friday. We find out Saturday that he actually walked in front of a bus on Friday and killed himself. So in the span of a week, we found out, like, we had my moment with PTSD and the roaches, and then we had 2 tenants that we knew of that had passed, all in the span of a week. For me, that was one of the most intense experiences the week that I've probably ever had in this. And I talked with Laura the day after, and we said, hey, like, we're only like 3 months into this, and is this something you want to keep going and continue doing? And her answer was yes, and I said mine is too. Even though this is super intense, like, it was for me as well, that thought of being the building owner that had someone die, and you have to go back in and especially because it wasn't really kept well. Like, the parents went through, they said, hey, this was Saturday, we found out he passed. Sunday, they said, hey, we went in, we removed all the stuff that we wanted, you guys can clean it up. Monday, I went in after, so less than 48 hours after we found out that he had passed, I'm in there with a snow shovel and a barrel, and like literally this guy's life was put into four just trash barrels, and we moved out. And in the past, I used to think of it like those effing slum lords that don't care about their people, like that's what they go and do. And I'm literally in here doing this and feeling like it's terrible. My own kid. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, dude, like, no, this hurts. And we got, the parents, they gave us permission. They're like, thank you for everything you've done for our son. Like, they loved us. We appreciated us. And I'm like, yeah, my perceptions and my assumptions are all wrong.
Yeah, that's very sad. So,
Yeah.
so okay, I've got a good question here.
Yeah, okay.
You
I know
threw
that went
you threw
intense.
me off with
I
that
know
one.
people want to hear the stories, and then it's like, oh, it's life.
Yeah.
It's human. Yeah, it's humanity.
So you go on social media these days, right? And everyone's like, "Oh, you need to buy rental properties to get passive income," right? Here's a
Yeah.
prime example of this passive income that you have.
Right.
Is real estate for the audience that's wanting to get into real estate
Yeah.
because they want passive income. I mean, we have people who book calls with us and they're like, "Yeah, I want to start a junk removal company to make passive income." I'm like, "It's not passive income." Is real estate like owning rental properties is it passive income or is it not? What are your thoughts?
It's not passive income. It's not. It's not passive income because you will always, for me, unless you can get to that point where it is just a line on a spreadsheet for you and you like literally just cash the checks. That's what my view on passive income is. If you have an engagement with it, if you are having to manage it, you may not be the direct person putting the labor into it. And that's really where I think a lot of people are equating that to passive income. Like, oh, if I'm not the one swinging the hammer, then it's passive income for me. I just have to. Well, no, you got to manage the tenants. You got to manage the repairs. You got to like your quality controlling. Your job may be different, but it is not passive for me.
I saw Andy Frisella. He made a video a couple weeks ago, and he
Yeah.
said, "If you hear the word passive income, run." And I thought that was funny, because
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like us as human beings, the concept of what we want and believe is going to fix our problems is normally never the actual experience of what does it. So people are like, hey, I want a bunch of passive income so I don't have to work, or my life is easy and it's this. No, a great example of that, I think Grant talked to you about it. Like my partner Grant, he went from going like 40 to 45 hours a week. His intention was to go down to 25 and travel once a month. And they started doing that. And after a year of doing that, it took effort to get there. After a year of doing that, his wife said, sometimes I'm getting a little, traveling is kind of takes a toll as well. So it's like, even though you're going on vacations, it still has a cost. It still has things that are associated with it. And humans by design will get less fulfillment from things over time.
yeah, I always think about that. If I had $1 billion, right?
Mm-hmm.
What would I do? I feel like I would go nuts because what are you going to do? Go on vacation for the next 40 years or 60 years or whatever? I don't think I could do that, and I would probably end up working or doing some type of hustle still.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing too. Like people are like, oh, I want all this passive income so I can retire. I can do this. And it's like, I want to find the thing that I love doing so that retirement isn't even like on my board. I want to learn and I want to keep growing in what I'm doing. Like if I can do this till the end of my day, and again, that may change when I turn 60. It may change when I turn, 65, 70. And I'm like, I do just want to go on vacations now. And I do just want to hang out with my grandkids. That's great. Right now, that's not where I'm at. And I don't see that changing anytime in the near future, but it doesn't mean it won't. And so, but don't have that concept of like, oh, when I get there, everything will be fixed. You're chasing
new issues.
Yeah, you're chasing something that's just going to bring new things to you that you're going to have to deal with.
Right. The more money, the more problems is true. So I
would say more money, different problems.
Yeah, different problems.
Yeah, there you go.
So you've had points. It seems like you're big into self-development, becoming a better version of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
You've been unhappy and you've been happy. Sounds like you're pretty happy right now. What makes you happy as a person? And somebody who's not happy, what kind of advice can you give to them to become a happier person?
Man, that is a deep question. That'd be a podcast all on its own. For me, yeah, I started the personal development journey because I was really unhappy with myself and how I was showing up in the world. My advice to those people that feel unhappy right now is even like just understanding it is a choice. You just have to figure out your path on how to get there. Find out. And a lot of times it's not a matter of something external that's going to make you happy. It's learning how to be happy with what you have currently. It's a matter of it's all a skill set. It's all a choice and it's a skill set. It's a muscle that you're building. And somewhere in your life, you are grateful for something. Somewhere in your life, you are happy about something. Somewhere in your life, you are appreciative of something. You have that skill set. The problem that most people run into is they're looking at this one little narrow piece and saying I'm unhappy. and I don't know how to be happy, even though if they looked over here in a different part of their life, they're happy and they know how to be happy with it. They just haven't connected the dots on how to do it in this arena. And you just got to reframe stuff and have a different relationship. That's it.
Does money buy happiness?
No.
Okay.
Money's a tool for access.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, actually, I want to put it this way. So the more money that I've personally made, or the most money that I've ever had, some of those times I've been the least happy I've ever been in my life, right? Even with the car and, you know, just like everything that I could ever ask for.
Yeah.
I've been the least, you know, happy. And I feel like in the past couple months, I've kind of been that way where I've had to try to take a step back and find clarity of exactly what I want out of this life. And happiness is, you know, I'd rather be happy and have no money whatsoever than money and not be happy.
Yeah. And how do we do both?
Exactly.
That's the true question. And that's the thing a lot of times, I heard it phrased real well, is you'll either start with no money and you'll figure out how to be happy with no money, and then you'll start making money, or you'll figure out how to make money and you'll be unhappy, and then you'll figure out how to be happy with money. So either way, if your goal is to be happy and have money, you're going to get there. It's just a matter of which path are you taking, right?
So. I love it, man. So what's like the best advice you could give anybody, you know, the audience who's, you know, maybe wants to become a better version of themselves? What would you say to them?
All right. What I would say to them is surround yourself with people that, and I'm really starting to learn this from my dog. Surround yourself with people that see a version of you that you may not see yourself, the good and the positive, and like your abilities and just the potential you have to tap into. And the more you surround yourself with those people, the more you'll start believing it. And put yourself into rooms with people that you deem are higher caliber than you, and figure out how to serve them in a way that doesn't compromise what you're doing. And so how I say that is like, I intentionally joined a mastermind with people that were executing at a much higher level than me, and it scared the crap out of me because I was like, what am I going to do in here? How am I even going to serve them? How am I going to, I'm going to be the fish out of water. And what ultimately happened is I found through that process is I had value that I could provide to people that I wasn't aware of. You just got to find that value. And really that's what life for me has become, is that reciprocation piece. Is I know if I sit down and I talk with somebody long enough, I'm going to find where I can provide value in their life, and vice versa. If it's a fit. If it's not, then, you know, whatever that relationship ends up playing out as. But don't look at it as I'm not good enough. Don't look at it as I need to build a skill set to provide value. Don't look at it as a inadequacy piece. Look at it as a potential of growth, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Awesome, man. So I really appreciate you coming on here. I mean, you know, I've never really got to hear your story and what you've done, so it's been really awesome to have you here. Where can everybody find you at?
So you can find us. That's a great question. You can find me on Facebook, Josh Wiesler, Instagram as well. We've got an event. We didn't really even talk about the event. We're doing an investor conference in November. May not be around by the time this airs, but you can find that at the website G2 and then free.com is that event, and we're selling tickets. So it's got 17 different speakers. It's really going to be an amazing event, as well as we've got a digital product. If you go to the website GHREAClarity.com, some lead generation on real estate through building relationships. So a couple different places.
Awesome, man.
Yep.
I love it. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah. Thank you very much for the invite, man.
See you guys on the next one.